Imagine this. A cyber attack strikes. But it's not like in the movies, not a bang. It's more like a whisper. Silent. Siphoning data, messing with operations, kind of subtly bringing a huge organization right to its knees. So what's really standing between that sort of slow burn chaos and, well, control? Is it just the firewalls, the antivirus stuff we always hear about? Or is it something, I don't know, deeper, more strategic, almost invisible? Today we're diving into those really critical layers of defense, the ones that go way beyond just the technical front lines. We'll explore how the right oversight, strong operational strategies, and cutting-edge AI, how all that can make or break an organization's security. Okay, before we really plunge into this fascinating world, could you do us a quick favor? Just take a second, hit that like button, subscribe to the deep dive if you haven't already. Oh, and share this with anyone who you think needs a bit of a shortcut to getting well-informed on cyber. Trust me, you don't want to miss these kinds of insider tips. They could literally protect your career down the line. And remember, all the extra resources, everything we mentioned, it's all linked right down there in the description for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission today really is to unpack Module 14, Oversight and Operations. That's from the CompTIA Security Plus Guide to Network Security Fundamentals. We'll also be bringing in some key insights on GRC, that's governance, risk, and compliance, and the really transformative role of artificial intelligence in cybersecurity today. We're going to explore what defines network and system security as this kind of continuous thing, this process involving analysis, implementation, evaluation, and maintenance. Our focus is going to be on the real-world applications, the future trends that are just essential for anyone building a career in this field. Especially thinking about you, our BCIS 4345 students, and those of you starting out in MIS, CIS, and IT.
Okay, let's start digging in. A lot of people think cybersecurity is just about the tech, right? Firewalls, patching systems, the technical grunt work. But it feels like before any of that happens, before a single line of code is written or a server is configured, there's this higher level strategy, like an architect's blueprint. And that's what we call governance in InfoSec, isn't it? It feels foundational. Like maybe the very first part of that continuous security process you mentioned, the analysis and strategic planning bit.
Exactly. No, that's a perfect way to frame it. Governance, at its core, it's about establishing the structures, the systems, the practices an organization uses, basically how they assign, oversee, and then report on security matters. It's not just a dusty rule book, It's about creating a framework, a solid one, for making decisions, for accountability, managing resources effectively. Think of it maybe like the city council for an organization's security, setting that strategic vision, and crucially, making sure it lines up directly with the overall business objectives. The CompTIA guide really stresses that security goals must align with the mission. And here's the critical point, I think. Security, at the end of the day, it isn't just an IT problem. It's a fundamental business problem. It impacts everything: reputation, customer trust, revenue, just keeping the lights on. So if you take a purely technical approach, you might build this, impenetrable fortress. But what if that fortress actually stifles business innovation, or makes daily work impossible, or just costs way too much to keep up? Well, then it's not really effective, is it? Governance ensures security supports the mission. It enables the business. It doesn't just act as a, defensive cost center.
That's a really powerful distinction, security as a business enabler. Okay, so if governance is the city council setting the vision, who's actually sitting on this council? Who are the key players putting these policies into action? Is it just the tech folks, or are we talking broader leadership buy-in here? And what happens if those key roles aren't talking to each other?
Great question. And yeah, it absolutely needs that broader leadership commitment. Organizations use different governance bodies, boards of directors, executive management teams, maybe specialized steering committees. These groups set the strategic direction, define those high-level policies, and provide oversight. Super important. And within those structures, you find these key roles driving the security agenda. We could almost think of them as the three amigos of security leadership. You've got the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer. They're focused on the how, the technical, the strategic aspects of protecting digital stuff. Then the CRO, Chief Risk Officer. Their lens is wider, identifying, assessing, mitigating risks across the whole company, cyber included, but not just cyber. And the CCO, Chief Compliance Officer. They make sure the organization sticks to all the relevant laws, regulations, internal policies, no exceptions. Each role is vital. And their combined perspective, working together, that's crucial. If they're siloed, you get fragmented efforts, right? Security projects that don't get funded properly, or maybe compliance gaps that lead to huge fines. Actually, the American Council for Technology Industry Advisory Council, ACT IAC, they call governance the collaboration and decision-making glue for IT. It involves a whole range of CIO, CAO, CISO, even HR leaders working alongside the business leaders. It weaves security right into the fabric of how the organization operates. It's not just bolted on later.
Wow. Okay, so it really does span the entire C-suite. That makes sense. So once that vision is set, the roles are defined, how do organizations actually do the governance part? Like, what are the practical tools they use day to day to make sure everyone's following that direction? This sounds like it gets us right into the implementation part of our security cycle.
Exactly. This is where the practical toolkit comes in. Policies, procedures, standards, and guidelines. These are the guardrails, basically. So first up, policies. These are the high-level mandatory objectives. They define what needs to be done. Like, a policy might just say, all sensitive data must be encrypted. Simple, high-level. Think of it like the organization's constitution. Broad foundational sets the overall direction. And the CompTIA guide. It stresses that good policies need clear scope, ownership, how they'll be enforced, and, importantly, review cycles so they don't get outdated. Then you have procedures. These are the nuts and bolts, the detailed step-by-step instructions on how to actually implement a policy. So if the policy is encrypt sensitive data, the procedure might say, Step 1, use AES 256 encryption. Step 2, store keys in a hardware security module, and so on. Procedures ensure things are done consistently, the same way every time, right across the organization. Next up, standards. These are benchmarks. Specific requirements for security controls, often based on best practices. Think things like ISO 27 layers of 1, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, or maybe PCI DSS for payment cards. These aren't just internal rules. Often they're recognized internationally. They give you a common language, measurable targets for security maturity. Following a standard shows you're meeting a certain level of best practice. That's really important for showing due diligence. And finally, guidelines. These are more like recommendations. Helpful advice for specific areas. Unlike policies or procedures, they aren't usually strictly mandatory. They offer flexibility. Best practices without being super rigid. They help people make good decisions without stifling, innovation too much.
Okay, that makes sense. Policy is the what, procedure is the how, standard is the how well, and guideline is the maybe try this. So, if I'm learning ethical hacking, or maybe I'm going into network defense, how does knowing about this internal rulebook actually help me on the job? It sounds a bit bureaucratic.
But that's the key insight. It might seem bureaucratic, but for ethical hackers and defenders, policies, procedures, standards, guidelines, they're like an organization's internal vulnerability map. Seriously. Knowing their rulebook, it tells you exactly where their defenses should be strongest. And crucially, where any deviation, maybe they aren't following their own procedure or a standard isn't fully met, creates a potential opening. A weakness. It helps you see where controls are supposed to be, and therefore, where a misconfiguration or a gap might exist if things aren't being followed properly. It's like getting the blueprints to the building you're trying to assess or defend.
Got it. So it's not just rules, it's potential weak points if the rules aren't followed. Okay. Now, beyond those internal rules, organizations are swimming in this, like complex sea of external laws and regulations. Seems like they change all the time, too. How do they make sure they're playing by all those rules? Especially when messing up sounds like it could cost a fortune or worse.
Right. And that's where compliance becomes absolutely critical. This is a huge part of the continuous evaluation phase of our security process. Compliance is all about making sure you're sticking to those external laws, regulations, industry standards. And here's the thing. It is not optional. Like the diligence source points out really clearly, the consequences of non-compliance, they can be absolutely severe. We're talking huge legal penalties, massive financial hits from fines, court costs, and reputational damage that can be almost impossible to fix. It takes years to recover trust. We usually differentiate between internal compliance monitoring, that's the organization checking itself with audits and assessments, and external compliance monitoring. That's when outside auditors or regulatory bodies come in and check. Both are ongoing things, continuous processes, always checking if operations meet the requirements. It's definitely not a set it and forget it deal.
Yeah.
You have to keep adapting because, like you said, the rules are always evolving.
Yeah, constantly evolving seems to be the name of the game. And data. Everyone says data is the new oil, right? But it also feels like a massive liability if it's not handled perfectly, especially user data. So how does compliance specifically help protect that sensitive info? And where are the big risks or gaps right now?
Protecting data privacy is probably one of the most critical parts of compliance today.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're talking PII, personally identifiable information, sense and financial stuff, health information. Anything that can point back to an individual. Regulations like GDPR over in Europe or CCPA in California, these are major examples of government stepping in and mandating strong data protection. And the penalties for messing up are often really significant. The CompTIA guide hammers this home. Complying with these rules protects customer privacy, sure, but it also maintains that crucial element of trust. Think about a company dealing with a data breach. The legal fallout, the financial hit, it often comes directly from compliance failures. Maybe they didn't encrypt data when they were supposed to, or they kept data way longer than their policy allowed. It all ties back to following those rules.
And speaking of gaps, that mixed mode AI report had a statistic that really jumped out at me. 65% of organizations are using confidential consumer data with AI. Yeah, okay, makes sense. But only 38% actually have specific privacy policies for that AI use. That doesn't just sound like a gap. That sounds like a massive ticking liability time bomb waiting to go off. Most companies are basically playing Russian roulette with consumer trust and huge fines.
You've absolutely nailed the gravity of that statistic. It is a ticking time bomb, no question. It shines a huge spotlight on a major gap in current compliance practices, a massive potential risk area. Because while we have general data privacy rules, how they specifically apply to new tech like AI, that's still kind of murky, still evolving. It creates these new, really complex challenges for compliance teams. You see a lot of organizations rushing to use AI because the potential benefits are huge, right? But they're doing it without fully understanding or maybe without implementing the necessary safeguards for the data that AI is constantly eating up and processing. It's a classic example of technology moving faster than our ability to govern it properly. The innovation outpaces the frameworks for governance and compliance.
Okay, so it really sounds like connecting these three things, governance, risk, and compliance, GRC, right? That's not just a nice to have. It seems absolutely essential. They can't just live in their own little silos. What's the real advantage of pulling them together into a unified GRC strategy?
Precisely. Bringing them together is where the real power lies. When you unify them into a GRC strategy, you get this powerful integrated system. It streamlines decision-making, cuts down on redundant efforts. It just makes sense. Diligent defines GRC as an integrated collection of capabilities. Basically, it helps an organization reliably hit its objectives, handle uncertainty, and act with integrity. So you're not treating security, risk management, and compliance like separate chores anymore. They're interconnected parts of one big strategy. And the benefits, they're pretty clear. You get better decision-making because leaders have a clear, holistic picture of risks and opportunities, not just fragments of info. You get smarter risk management because you can spot threats earlier and understand their potential impact better. You ensure solid regulatory adherence, avoiding those nasty fines and reputation hits we talked about. And often you see increased operational efficiency. Processes aren't duplicated across departments anymore. That saves money, speeds things up. Think about it the other way. Without that unified GRC, you end up with, as Diligent puts it, a lack of visibility into key threats and risks. And definitely higher costs, because everything's fragmented and reactive. ACTIAC backs this up too, saying mature governance drives better IT outcomes precisely because it integrates things like risk management and security across the whole organization. So yeah, a strong GRC framework, it's not just defense, it's not just ticking boxes, it's a strategic enabler. It helps the business perform better, be more agile. It prevents those big breakdowns we sometimes see when risk management is siloed. It's about building a culture of, doing the right thing.
Okay, so we've got the strategy sorted with governance and compliance. That's the blueprint, the rule book for our digital fort. Now let's get down to the action, the front lines, the ongoing implementation and maintenance, security operations, or CCOPs. And honestly, the sheer volume of threats today, it just feels overwhelming. Why has automation become so completely indispensable here? It really feels like the bad guys are just too fast, too numerous for humans to keep up with alone.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head there. The sheer volume, the speed, the complexity of modern attacks. It's just too much for human teams on their own. Full stop. We're talking millions of alerts potentially, countless logs generated every single second, and the threat landscape. It's morphing constantly. New attack vectors pop up all the time. So automation, it boosts both efficiency and effectiveness massively. It lets organizations respond to threats at machine speed. It cuts down on those inevitable manual errors you get with repetitive tasks. And crucially, it frees up your human experts, your analysts, lets them focus on the more strategic, complex, creative stuff that really needs their brain power. Think of it like an assembly line versus artisanal production. Artisanal is great for some things, but when you're dealing with a global onslaught of digital threats daily, you need the speed, the scale, the consistency that only automation brings. It's like having a digital sentry that's always on watch, never gets tired, never blinks.
That assembly line analogy makes total sense. Speed and scale. So beyond just raw speed,
What are the really tangible benefits organizations see when they put automation into their security operations?
Oh, the benefits are pretty clear, pretty compelling. First off, you get significantly improved incident response times. That's huge. When a threat pops up, automated playbooks can kick in instantly. Block a malicious IP, isolate an infected machine, whatever needs doing. Without waiting for a human to click a button, that drastically cuts down the dwell time, how long an attacker hangs out in your network, minimizes the damage. Second, automation ensures consistent and repeatable processes, human error. It's a factor in so many security incidents. Automation just takes that variability out, guarantees procedures are followed exactly every single time, and third, it offers enhanced scalability. As your organization grows, or the threat landscape gets even worse, automated systems can scale up. They handle more work without needing a proportional jump in headcount. The CompTIA guide calls automation a workforce multiplier, and that's exactly right. Your existing security team, they can achieve way more. It reduces their stress, their fatigue, which honestly helps with staff retention too. Burnout is real in this field. Imagine your analysts spending less time drowning in thousands of mostly harmless alerts and more time doing deep threat analysis or proactive hunting. That's a massive win for everyone.
A workforce multiplier. I like that. Okay, so automation is clearly powerful, but where does it really make the biggest difference? Can you give us a couple of concrete examples where it's like truly shining? And I guess the flip side, does relying so heavily on automation create new problems, like maybe a single point of failure if the automation itself breaks?
Yeah, absolutely. Automation has some truly transformative use cases. Let's look at two really critical areas. One, enhanced software development lifecycle, SDLC. This is huge. Shifting security left, as they say, by building security automation right into the development process. You catch vulnerabilities way earlier when they're cheaper and easier to fix. It means secure coding practices get enforced from the get-go, not bolted on at the end. We're talking CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration, continuous delivery with automated security testing built in, API integrations connecting different tools, setting up guardrails that automatically stop insecure code or configurations from even being deployed. And for you folks interested in ethical hacking, understanding how security is supposed to be built into the SDLC, that's gold. You're not just poking at the final product, you're looking for flaws in the whole process. Two, improve provisioning and identity and access management, IAM. This is all about who gets access to what. Automating user provisioning, adding new users, removing old ones drastically cuts down on human error and the risk of unauthorized access. Think about onboarding and offboarding employees. IAM solutions use automation to give new hires the right access based on their role instantly. And just as importantly, when someone leaves, their access gets revoked immediately, consistently across all systems. No lingering ghost accounts for attackers to find later. That's a super common attack vector. And yeah, there are other big areas too. Automating vulnerability scanning, log analysis, incident response steps, pulling in threat intelligence. It all adds up. Now, about the downsides, you're right to ask. It's not all sunshine and roses. The CompTIA guide does point out potential issues. Automation can definitely add complexity if it's not designed well. There's usually a significant initial cost to get it set up, and it needs ongoing support and maintenance. It's not fire and forget. And yes, poor design can create a single point of failure. If your core automation tool goes down, a lot of processes might grind to a halt. Plus, there's this idea of technical debt. If you implement automation quickly but poorly and don't fix the underlying issues, you're just creating bigger problems for yourself later on. So yeah, powerful tool, absolutely. But it needs careful planning, solid testing, and constant refinement.
That's a really crucial balance to strike. Understanding the power, but also the pitfalls. Okay, so automation's great for those individual tasks, the repetitive stuff. But what about managing the whole Doc Symphony of power of security actions when a real incident hits? You need coordination, right? Making sure every automated tool, every team, plays its part at the right time. That sounds less like automation and more like, like a conductor leading an orchestra. And I think that's where orchestration comes in, isn't it?
Precisely. You've captured the essence perfectly. That's exactly the role of security orchestration. While automation might handle one specific instrument or task, security orchestration is the conductor. It coordinates the entire ensemble. It's about coordinating and automating entire security workflows and processes, often across multiple different tools and teams. Think about a complex security incident. It often involves a whole chain of events, right? Identify the threat, correlate alerts from your firewall, your endpoint detection, your email security, enrich that data with threat intelligence. Execute containment actions, document everything, start recovery. Without orchestration, a human analyst might be manually jumping between 5 different screens. copying and pasting information, triggering actions one by one. It's slow, it's prone to errors. With orchestration, you define a playbook for handling, say, a specific type of malware outbreak, and the orchestration platform automates the execution of that entire playbook. For example, it detects a phishing email with a bad attachment. Orchestration could automatically 1. Yank that email from everyone's inbox. 2. Detonate the attachment in a sandbox. 3. Block the sender's IP address everywhere. 4. Push new detection rules to your endpoints. 5. Create an incident ticket. 6. Alert the security team with all the context, all happening in seconds or minutes, seamlessly before an analyst even has to touch it unless a complex decision is needed. It massively streamlines incident response, helps automate parts of threat hunting, and just makes the whole security operation way more efficient. Reduces reaction time, ensures consistency. CISA highlights this too. Orchestrating automation is key.
Okay, so we're building these super efficient, automated, orchestrated defenses, reacting faster than ever. But, a lot of places are pretty good at reacting once something bad is found. What if you could actually find the threats before they really get going, before they do major damage? This feels like shifting gears again, moving beyond just reaction and into truly proactive maintenance and improvement.
Yes, and that is the core idea behind threat hunting. It's a fundamental shift towards proactive defense. Threat hunting is this proactive, often repetitive, and significantly human-driven approach. It involves actively searching for threats, for indicators of compromise, IOCs, within your own network and systems. You're not just sitting back waiting for an alarm bell to ring from your automated tools. It complements that traditional reactive monitoring by specifically looking for the advanced stuff. The stealthy threats, the evasive techniques that might slip past your standard defenses. And for those of you learning ethical hacking, this is where that mindset directly applies to the blue team, to defense. A good threat hunter thinks like an attacker. They're constantly asking, if I were trying to break in and stay hidden, how would I do it? What subtle clues might I leave behind that a typical alert wouldn't catch? It's about challenging your own assumptions, forming hypotheses, and then digging through the data to prove or disprove them. It's investigative work, trying to find adversaries who might already be inside. And threat hunting isn't just one thing. It happens at different levels. You might do indicator-based hunting, taking known bad stuff like malicious file hashes or IP addresses from threat intel feeds and searching your logs to see if they're present. Or behavior-based hunting, looking for anomalies, deviations from normal patterns. That user account suddenly accessing weird files at 3 a.m. from a country they've never been to, that's an anomaly worth investigating. And then the most advanced kind is hypothesis-driven hunting. Here, an analyst might say, okay, I read about this new technique adversaries are using involving PowerShell. Let's assume they might be trying it here. What evidence would we see if they were? And then they go looking specifically for that evidence. It relies heavily on having good threat intelligence, powerful security analytics tools, and the ability to correlate data across different systems to spot those really subtle patterns. It's continuous, it's iterative, and it really requires deep expertise and that curious investigative mindset. It pushes defense beyond just reacting.
Okay, we've covered automation and orchestration, definitely powerful forces, changing how we implement and maintain security day to day. But there's an even bigger player stepping onto the field now. One that seems poised to revolutionize the analysis and evaluation side of things, almost in real time. Artificial intelligence, AI. How is AI transforming cybersecurity right now? And how is it actually different from the automation we just talked about?
Yeah, AI is absolutely reshaping cybersecurity. It's ushering in a whole new era of defense, of resilience, and it is distinct from standard automation. Automation follows predefined rules, right? If X happens, do Y. AI, on the other hand, can learn, it can adapt, it can make decisions in really complex, dynamic situations. Often it can spot patterns that humans or even sophisticated rule-based automation would completely miss. The mixed mode AI report calls it a formidable ally. And that feels right. It can proactively detect really sophisticated threats, help automate incident response, and significantly augment what human analysts can do. Honestly, AI is becoming essential just to keep pace with the threats we're seeing now, especially since attackers are starting to use AI themselves. The impact is already pretty significant. Those mixed mode survey results, they showed 50% of organizations reporting AI improved their ability to prioritize threats and vulnerabilities. That's huge for focusing limited resources. And 46% found AI helpful in spotting application security flaws. Again, finding problems earlier. So where is it being used? Well, threat detection and intelligence is a massive one. AI is critical for spotting zero-day exploits, those brand new attacks nobody's seen before. For detecting novel attack methods, even AI-generated attacks. It's used through vast amounts of data, recognizes incredibly subtle patterns, and adapts to new threats on the fly. The report mentions 65% use AI to track suspicious IPs, host names, file hashes, and 67% use it to generate detection rules based on known patterns. AI also excels at behavioral analysis and anomaly detection, spotting when a user or a system starts acting weirdly. That's key for finding stealthy intruders. It helps with automated incident response too, taking over routine tasks. And interestingly, 51% plan to use AI to bolster identity and access management, IAM verifying users. Super important since credential theft is still a top attack method.
That's incredible. Learning and adapting in real time. It really does sound like a different level. But you said AI isn't just one thing. It's evolving, right? Can you break down these different waves of AI and security? And what's this third wave AI I've heard mentioned? It sounds like maybe it's moving beyond just traditional machine learning.
You're absolutely right. AI is definitely a spectrum, and we've seen these waves each building on the previous one. So first wave AI, think traditional rule-based systems, expert systems. Humans write explicit if-then rules, like if you see the specific malware signature, then block it. They work well for known threats, but fall down hard on anything new. Second wave AI. This is where machine learning comes in. Statistical learning. The report said 36% of orgs are using this. These systems learn from huge amounts of historical data. They spot patterns, make predictions. They can often detect variants of known threats because they recognize similarities to past attacks they've been trained on. But the real cutting edge, the potentially transformative part, is third wave AI. According to Mixmode, third wave AI has this capability to analyze massive streams of time series data like network traffic without needing that historical training data, without needing predefined rules or signatures. That is a massive leap. Why? Because it means it can potentially detect previously unknown, never-before-seen attacks in real time. Instead of just matching patterns from the past, it's almost like it understands the context, the normal baseline, and can spot deviations that indicate something genuinely novel and malicious is happening. Think about how large language models understand and generate text. It's a similar kind of contextual reasoning, but applied to security data. This capability could let a large organization spot sophisticated attacks that have zero existing signatures, closing a huge gap in defenses that rely on knowing what bad looks like beforehand. The report also mentioned generative AI that creates new content is important to 81% of orgs, and integrating advanced analysis like machine learning and behavioral analytics is key for 69%. It's really about shifting from reactive, signature-based defense to proactive intelligence systems that can anticipate and adapt.
Okay, third wave AI. Detecting the unknown without prior training. That sounds like a genuine superpower for defenders. Incredible potential.
Why?
Like, it can't be that easy, right? What are the real-world challenges organizations are hitting when they try to actually implement this stuff and get value from it? It can't just be plug and play.
Oh, definitely not plug and play. Despite the huge promise, the reality is implementation is tricky. There are significant hurdles. That mixed mode report. It found 53% of organizations are still in the early stages of AI adoption for cyber. Only 18% have fully deployed it. That gap tells a story. So what are the barriers? Well, a big one is complexity and integration. 61% struggle to even apply AI controls across their whole enterprise. 60% run into interoperability problems getting different AI tools to talk to each other. And a massive 65% find it really hard to integrate AI with their existing, often older, legacy systems. That points to needing architectural cleanup. 64% said that. And basic digitization, 71% before you can even really start with advanced AI. Budget is another huge one. No surprise there, I guess. 56% called insufficient budget a top barrier, and the report said 60% are allocating only 25% or less of their IT security budget to AML. That seems, well, pretty low given the potential impact, right? Then there's the expertise shortage. This is huge. 53% admit they lack the internal skills to properly vet what AI vendors are actually claiming their tools can do.
And 50% are investing in AI, partly because they can't find enough skilled cybersecurity people. It's a bit of a catch-22. You need AI because you lack people, but you lack the people to implement the AI effectively. 54% feel they need outside help to really get the most out of AI. And finally, sometimes it's just a lack of time. 42% said they just don't have the bandwidth to integrate AI into their already busy security workflows. So yeah, these aren't small bumps in the road. They need serious strategic investment and probably a shift in how organizations think about security tech.
Those are definitely major hurdles. Complexity, budget, skills gap, time.
Wow. And speaking of challenges, let's circle back to that really concerning statistic about using confidential consumer data with AI, but having hardly any privacy policies specifically for it. What are the implications there? What's the actual risk when you have that kind of disconnect between adopting the tech and overseeing the privacy side? It feels dangerous.
It absolutely is dangerous. And it's a critical challenge that, frankly, often gets overlooked in the rush to adopt new tech. Let's recap those numbers from mixed mode. 65% use confidential consumer data with AI. Okay. But only 38% have specific privacy policies for that AI use. Even fewer, just 44%, do regular privacy impact assessments for their AI systems. And only 41% have appointed someone like a privacy officer specifically for AI governance. And maybe the most telling, a mere 25% work with vendors on privacy by design, meaning building privacy considerations into the AI system right from the very start. So the implications, they're huge. You're looking at significant risk of consumer data breaches, potentially massive regulatory fines under laws like GDPR or CCPA, and honestly, irreparable damage to the organization's reputation and customer trust. If you have an AI system churning through vast amounts of personal data without clear rules, without clear accountability, without built-in safeguards, the potential for misuse, for accidental exposure, or even for algorithmic bias creeping into decisions, it becomes enormous. It's a perfect illustration of why that robust governance and compliance we talked about earlier is so incredibly vital, especially when dealing with powerful new technologies like AI.
Yeah, that really brings it home. So how do organizations get past these hurdles? How do they actually start leveraging AI securely, effectively, and bridge that gap between the cool tech and the responsible use? It sounds like it's got to be more than just buying the latest AI tool. It feels like a cultural thing, too.
It really does require a multifaceted approach. It's definitely not just about the tech. Part of the solution is educating the workforce, not just the security team, but everyone. Educating them on AI risks, how to spot when an AI might be giving a faulty outcome, understanding how their own data might be used and protected. Organizations also need to partner much more closely with their AI vendors, really push them on integration support, transparency, and those privacy by design features. And adopting a unified approach internally is key. Managing AI risks and privacy risks together, maybe through dedicated task forces that bring security, privacy, legal, and data science folks together, breaking down those internal silos. And despite all the talk of AI replacing humans, the human element remains absolutely vital, crucial even. Human analysts bring that critical domain expertise, the context, the ethical judgment. They're needed to train the AI, refine its models, oversee its decisions, and make sure it's operating effectively and, importantly, ethically, in line with the organization's values. It really needs to be a partnership. Human intelligence guiding and augmenting artificial intelligence. That requires trust, robust oversight, and a commitment to continuous learning on both sides. And looking ahead, say towards 2025, the future of GRC and AI in cyber looks pretty dynamic. It's pushing us even further towards that proactive, integrated defense posture. Diligent highlights a few key trends that are really going to shape how we analyze and evaluate risk going forward. First, expect to see AI-powered GRC becoming much more common, and not just for cybersecurity. AI is poised to be a linchpin for boosting productivity, efficiency, scalability across the entire GRC function. Think predictive analytics spotting compliance issues before they happen, automation cutting down the cost and drudgery of compliance tasks. Second, the integration of ESG into GRC is picking up serious speed. Environmental, social, and governance factors. They're not off to the side anymore. They're becoming central to an organization's overall risk picture. GRC frameworks will have to broaden to cover these ethical and sustainability concerns driven by regulators and by what customers and investors expect. Third, there's a much bigger focus on building a risk-resilient culture. That means more GRC training for everyone, clear leadership accountability, really embedding ethical decision-making so that employees at all levels feel empowered to own GRC practices in their daily work. It makes GRC less of a niche function and more of a core competency. Fourth, cyber risk and third-party risk. They're going to stay right at the top of the worry list, maybe even become more dominant. Why? Ongoing digital transformation. Everything's connected. That means even more rigorous checks on vendors and partners. And AI itself will increase the focus on data governance, especially as the bad guys start using AI more effectively too. Boards are definitely asking tougher questions about cyber risk in almost every meeting now. And finally, we're moving towards agile and real-time GRC. Forget those once-a-year risk assessments. Think continuous, dynamic risk management. Using scenario modeling, getting real-time alerts, having flexible policies that can adapt quickly to market shifts, sudden crises, or new regulations. That continuous monitoring is vital for keeping an accurate picture of your risk landscape. And the ACT IAC's IT management maturity model really reinforces this. It sees cybersecurity as a core function, right alongside governance and budgeting. It has to be woven into everything IT does, and its effectiveness needs to be measured using standard frameworks like NIST CSF. That deep integration, that's what defines real maturity.
Wow, okay. We have covered a ton of ground today, seriously. From that high-level strategic stuff like governance and compliance down through the nitty-gritty of automation and orchestration and security ops, and then right into the future with AI. How do all these different pieces, strategy, operations, intelligence, how do they actually fit together? How do they create a truly resilient network and system security program? It sounds like it has to be this constantly turning, interlocking cycle.
It absolutely is a continuous process, a cycle. And this brings us right back to the heart of your BCIS 4345 course description, doesn't it? Network and system security is that continuous process involving analysis, implementation, evaluation, and maintenance. Let's try to connect those dots explicitly. Analysis, this is where those governance frameworks we talked about, like from ACT-IAC, come in, plus robust risk assessments, diligent emphasize those, and increasingly AI's predictive analytics capabilities, like mixed mode discussed, all providing continuous analysis of risks, looking at case studies, spotting future trends. It's about constantly scanning the horizon, understanding the threats. Implementation, this is the doing part. Security operations in action, using automation and orchestration effectively. CompTIA detailed this. Actually configuring and deploying security measures a key skill for you all. Integrating security right into the software development lifecycle, SDLC, which ACT-IAC stressed is crucial. Using tools like security groups for efficient access control. This is putting the plans into practice. Evaluation. How do we know if it's working? Through compliance monitoring and CompTIA. Regular GRC maturity assessments, diligent, to see how well integrated things are. And for AI, using clear metrics to measure its effectiveness in detecting threats and responding, mixed mode, is it actually delivering value? This feedback loop tells us if our defenses are working and where we need to improve. Maintenance. This isn't just fixing things when they break. It's proactive. It's threat hunting, CompTIA, to find hidden problems before they blow up. It's having agile GRC strategies, diligent, so you can adapt quickly to change. It's constantly leveraging leading InfoSec practices, ACT-IAC, to refine and improve your security posture. It's an ongoing cycle, never really done, always evolving.
That breakdown makes it really clear how it all links together. Analysis feeds implementation, which needs evaluation, leading to maintenance, which then informs the next round of analysis. So for our learners listening, the BCIS 4345 students, the early career folks, what does getting this holistic view mean for their future jobs, their professional growth? It's obviously not just about memorizing definitions, right? It's about building real skills.
Oh, it's far, far more than memorizing terms. Understanding all these interconnected areas gives you the foundational knowledge you absolutely need. Knowledge of the risks out there, how to secure systems effectively, ensuring data integrity, physical security concepts, the why behind governance, how to do risk analysis, encryption principles, staying ahead of future trends. That's the base. But more importantly, digging into this stuff develops the crucial practical skills. The ability to actually implement and configure security tools and measures, the skill to conduct assessments of a security posture, the ability to help manage security operations, and the skills to effectively monitor for threats and respond decisively when incidents happen. These aren't just abstract concepts. These are the vital hands-on capabilities that employers are looking for in ethical hackers and network defenders in really any professional role across MIS, CIS, or IT today. This whole deep dive. It's about equipping you not just to understand cybersecurity, but to do cybersecurity, to be an active, informed, skilled participant in protecting our digital world. And honestly, to take ownership of your own career growth in this incredibly dynamic field. Maybe a quick real-world scenario could help pull it all together. Let's imagine a big global tech company, like the kind of case study Diligent mentioned. Let's say they need to consolidate their IT compliance program because they operate everywhere. They have to meet GDPR, CCPA, maybe dozens of industry-specific standards. Diligent mentioned one company dealing with over 3,000 global certifications.
3,000. Wow, okay, that's staggering complexity. So how would everything we've discussed today, governance, compliance, ops, AI, how would that play out in a situation that complex? How do they go from fragmented chaos to a unified defense?
Yeah, in a scenario like that, integration is everything. It has to work together. So first, governance. The board, the executives. They'd set clear security policies using established frameworks. NIST CSF is a common one, mentioned by ACT, IAC, and Diligent. They'd empower key roles like the CISO and CCO from CompTIA to ensure strategy and accountability stretch across all those international operations. And it wouldn't be a one-off. It involved continuous monitoring, regular reporting to leadership, making sure decisions flow down and across different departments, IT, legal, finance, the actual business units. Then compliance. They'd need a strong internal audit team doing regular assessments, like CompTIA described, against all 3,000 plus requirements. They'd almost certainly use a sophisticated GRC software platform, like Diligent discussed, to centralize all that data, automate tracking, provide real-time dashboards showing their compliance status. Legal counsel would be working overtime interpreting all those global regulations, especially privacy ones. And they'd have external auditors coming in regularly too, checking their work. Next, security operations. Automation would be everywhere, built into software development via CI/CD pipelines, automating user provisioning with IAM tools, managing security group access in their cloud setups, all CompTIA topics. Orchestration platforms would then coordinate the complex automated responses to incidents across their diverse global systems, detecting, containing, remediating. And alongside that, dedicated threat hunting teams would be proactively digging through data, looking for those advanced stealthy attacks, using analytics and threat intel to find new IOCs. And finally, artificial intelligence. This would be their cutting edge. AI systems, like Mixmo described, would be deployed for real-time threat detection, spotting those 0 days, those novel attacks that signature-based tools miss. AI would help prioritize the most critical vulnerabilities across their massive infrastructure. It would analyze complex network traffic for subtle anomalies, but crucially remembering that mixed-mode statistic this company must address AI's use of data. They'd need specific, robust privacy policies for AI, regular privacy impact assessments, and a commitment to privacy by design in how they build or buy AI tools. Get that wrong, and the legal and reputational fallout could be catastrophic. So what's the outcome? By weaving all these elements together, governance, compliance, ops, AI, the company moves. They move from being fragmented, probably spending too much, carrying way too much risk, to being agile, efficient, and much, much more secure. Their strategic decisions get rooted in accurate, real-time visibility of the risks. It's not just about dodging fines anymore. It's about building deep trust with customers, enabling faster innovation, and really maintaining their edge in a tough global market. It's a unified, intelligent defense strategy in action. Hashtag outro.
Well, we really pulled back the curtain today, didn't we? Revealed that network and system security is so much more than just the tech. It's really about that intelligent oversight, the governance and compliance piece. It's about meticulous operations, automation, orchestration, proactive threat hunting, and increasingly, it's about harnessing the incredible and sometimes complex power of AI. We saw how that strong foundation gets built, how defenses are made efficient, and how looking ahead, understanding AI's role, including the ethics, that's just essential now.
Yeah, and remember that initial whisper of a cyber attack we talked about at the start, with the right mix of governance, operational excellence, and smart AI. It doesn't have to be a silent killer that brings down the company. It becomes a quickly detected, swiftly handled incident, because the whole system is designed for resilience, not just reaction. That continuous cycle analysis, implementation, evaluation, maintenance, that's what builds real digital strength.
Absolutely. And if you found this deep dive valuable today, please do hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and maybe share it with colleagues or classmates who might benefit. Your engagement really does help us bring more of these crucial insights directly to you. And don't forget, check out the description below for links to all the resources we mentioned and more.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, especially as you prepare for roles protecting our digital future, consider this. How will your personal commitment to continuous learning, to critical thinking, how will that shape the next generation of security practices, particularly as AI becomes an even more powerful and arguably more complex partner in how we defend ourselves?
Stay connected, stay secure.
Until next time, keep your network strong, your data protected, and your curiosity alive.